Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening.
Hello, everyone.
We are starting today 30 minutes later than usually because I got some meeting, and to be on the safe side, I agreed with Lisa to start like 30 minutes later. So sorry for that. We'll return back to 8 o'clock CET as always. So we are at Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you can be so kind and put in the comment line that you can hear us and see us, so we can start with the very interesting team we have today.
And Jan, we already have our first question. What game did you watch today that we had to start late?
It was not a game. I met a lady from the CSR. It was related to the sport, the meeting. I was related to the CSR community. But I was watching some matches today because some Czech players, ladies, were playing. So I was watching it mainly in the morning. Ivana, good evening.
We're here.
So if somebody from Facebook can also ping us that everything is okay.
And I will always say, you guys know I travel the world, so I'm going to send my greetings from Vienna this time. Right. You can always tell when I'm in a hotel room and I have like a funny background and really bad lighting. And hopefully one day we'll get that sorted.
Okay. Romana is there from Facebook. Okay, let's get started. Yeah.
Yes, and this topic came from the very end of our last LinkedIn Live. So if you didn't have a chance to check that out, you can go out to YouTube and watch it again. At the very end, no more time, we had someone share a story about being mobbed at work. Mobbed, for those of you who speak American English, means bullying. And wanted to know, how do I cope with this? This is toxic. I'm feeling isolated, she told us. What can you tell me to do? And I said, Jan, this is the topic that's going around. We can't answer this in 2 minutes. We need a whole hour devoted to mobbing and toxic relationships and toxic corporate cultures. And it goes on, again, not just in the business. You can have toxic relationships outside. You can have it in sports. You can have it anywhere. So we're going to talk today about what mobbing is and how you can actually cope with it. Because yes, there are things that you can do and ways that you can cope and handle it very well.
Yeah.
Are you okay, Jan, if I give it a huge kickoff, or do you want to add some words first?
No, go ahead. I have some, notes here, so I'll follow. Don't worry.
Well, I'm really passionate about this topic because it is a power game. And I need everyone to start to immediately recognize what it is. What happens when you get mobbed is you think it's personal against you. And I want you to know this is nothing to do with you. This is about the other person. So first things first, shed that blame, victim, something's wrong with me, I'm bad, they're right, I'm stupid, or whatever. Ignore. And realize this is about them, and they're trying to do a power grab. They will assert themselves as better. They will find whatever it is they can say about you or your incompetence in order to make you feel lesser. So please, please, please understand that the game you're playing is not an emotional one and it's not a personal one. It's a power game. Okay, I know this is hard for people to understand, especially for those many people who work today say, I don't like politics. I wish there were no politics at work. You can wish it, you can want it, you can hope for it, but the reality is it's there. So we accept that it's a power game. We don't believe what the person is saying to us. No self-blame, it's not true. Anytime you find yourself thinking it's true, I need you to cut that right now. And then, because you know, hey, this is not true and I'm not going to accept this, I want you to stand in your power. I really want you to draw boundaries, and you can speak up. You do not have to react emotionally and aggressively and assertively. I want you to stay calm and just noticing this is not something
Lisa, you're getting
I'm willing to. Am I back?
Yeah, but you are not moving.
Okay. I hope I'm frozen in a good position.
Now it's better, but it's kind of shady,
It's still cutting? Okay, let me see after I'm done talking if I can do something to fix it real quick after.
Okay.
So what I want everyone to know is when you speak up, you don't speak from an emotional state, because if you speak from an emotional state, that means they have the power. They've triggered you, you're responding to them. You stand in your power. When you stand in your power, then you can say, this is my boundary. I will not accept. You cannot speak to me that way. Calm, not aggressive, not upset, assertive. That's not something I'm willing to hear from you. Also, just in case, if this is an HR thing, make sure that you document everything that happens and that you are reporting it if it's something abusive or sexual harassment or something like that. The other thing that I want to remind you of, sometimes we put our whole identity into work or being smart or being very good at something, as an athlete, winning. And sometimes you need to separate yourself from your job. So if someone's saying you're bad at your job, you can almost separate that and say, okay, but I'm also still a person who has interests and hobbies and people who love me and friends and a life and an identity that is not only related to me being an employee at this company. And so you don't put all of your worth there that someone can very easily shatter it. You spread it, right? You know, in investing, you diversify, same. And this will take a lot of energy. Don't get me wrong. It's easy to say, brush it off and don't care. It's hard to do. So please, when you're doing this, I'm really just not going to care. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to let that person throw their tantrum, and then I'm going to stand in my power. At the end of the day, you do need to make sure you are rejuvenating and taking care of yourself, because that takes a lot of calmness and restraint. And it needs to go somewhere, or eventually you're like a volcano and you explode. So I want you to start to get into understanding this is a power game. This is not about me. And I'm going to stand in my power and not let them take my power from me. That is the best thing you can do, to let them know their power game doesn't work with you. And they can move on to someone else because it won't work for you. That's my intro.
All right. So where is this power game coming from? Usually it's coming from the other person ego. What is ego? It's somebody said ego means age got out. No, ego, it's the sum of the fears. Ego is driven by the fears. And the issue is that person fears are always sitting from something in the past or maybe something in the future. For that person, it's very hard to concentrate. That's why it's usually emotional. Okay. To have, like, to show your, say, cool power, when, like, logically to say, hey, it's not gonna to work with me. Okay. Those are the barriers. Those are my, borders. It's easy to say, but hard to do, because we have something, because emotions are contagious. Okay. Emotions are contagious. We have mirror neurons and we are mirroring the other people. And if somebody is, tough with you, bullying you, or, micromanagement is part of the toxic relationship as well. Or, you mentioned harassment or sexual harassment, or lack of respect, right? That's another thing, right? So it can be all of that. So what do you need to do in such situation? Lisa mentioned a couple of times in the past that whatever is the situation, you need to, like, breathe in, breathe out, and give your logical part of the brain chance to act from the logical standpoint. Okay. Because if you will go, it's like emotions, guess what? There is a fight, right? And probably if the other person is better prepared, maybe the other person is, winning. If you will say, hey, this is the power game. I don't want to play this power game. these are the borders, this is, who I am, and, logically show me, the good thing is, I mean, if you go to the other person and there are some arguments, you may say, okay, give me some proofs, that it is like that, okay? And that person would be, oh, I don't know, maybe, right? So and then you can build on that, right? But this is kind of first point I would like to mention. That you may ask, tell me, what are kind of the signs of this toxic relationship at the work? Okay, it can be gossiping very often, like people gossiping around the coffee machines, whatever. People can exclude you from the communication, like people would not CC you or put you on the two line, even though you are part of the project, and may say, hey, we forget about you, right, or whatever. That's another thing, undermining your role, or they are criticizing you constantly. You are always like, there's always finger points. It's you who is like guilty, right? So those are the signs, and you really need to take, in those situations, you need to take your space, because otherwise they will push you into the corner, and that's where you don't want to be. That this is, and then we can talk obviously about what to do if there's a more toxic relationship, how to fight, and change the situations, by influencing other people. But this is kind of in a nutshell, what is it? The issue is that in some organizations, it's basically what I call management by fear. There is somebody on the top of the organization saying, and that's kind of the borders, if you will not beat the budget next quarter, you gone. You are gone. You are out of the company, right? So you may say, well, this is it. That person is not, well, it's at the borders, right? And management by fear works for a very short time. Fear is a motivator, but once people are not anymore fearful, they will leave anyway. It's not good way to manage or lead people by the fear. That's for sure. But if there is a fear there is a management by fear at the top of the organization, uh, you better to avoid such an organization, because and it's still there even in the 21st century. We talk a lot about equal opportunities and all of that. Look what is happening in tennis. Tennis players, men, are much better paid than the women, right? Nobody knows why, right? They are saying, well, because they watch, more people are watching, the men tennis. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. But if we talk about like, equal opportunities, equal pay, sport should lead by example, in my view, and we are not there at all.
I can only say yes to that. I think that's absolutely right. And what I will say is, I think for many people, if you read the Harvard Business Review, if you read all the new management books, you see, oh my gosh, leading by fear is terrible and it doesn't work. And we know all this. The research keeps telling us all of this. And yet, people tried to change the organizational culture, and some companies made more progress than others. And then immediately COVID happened and we went back to a little bit of micromanagement. People wanted some top down. And then we went into this recession, and lots of industries are laying people off. Now there's a fear. Will I have a job? Are they going to fire me? I have to position myself in this new one to show my value. I'm just a number. I could be let go at any time. And people are going profits, profits, profits. We need to hit our numbers. We're not hitting our numbers. So it does become a pressure and a fear. So while we think, oh, we must be so advanced by now, that's when we're at our best and we're like at peacetime, not meaning from war, but from feeling like, okay, it's plush. We have customers. Things are going well. Economy is good. Then we can do all this nice stuff. This is how leaders think. Doesn't make it true, but what happens is their fear takes over beyond the point where they can say, okay, I want to let everyone have a voice, but we got to get things done now. And they let the fear run it. And sometimes they're consciously trying to mob to power, and sometimes they're really not. Sometimes they're so hyper focused. They just say, I will do the job no matter the collateral damage. I don't care who gets hurt left, right. Sorry. If you aren't delivering, I'm just being honest. This is what a lot of people who are bullying say. I'm just telling the truth. You didn't deliver. You need to deliver. You need to do this differently. They don't understand that their behavior might be hurting you. So again, you do need to speak up and let them know, hey, if you have a problem with the way I'm delivering, please come talk to me privately. Please come and let me know. Jan brought up some great examples about being excluded, whether it's being excluded from being invited to meetings, invited to events. I had a woman recently tell me she was excluded from...
be even in the kindergarten already.
Yes,
in the kindergarten. I remember when, my daughter was in the, they don't call it kindergarten, it's called, reception and pre-reception, the British system. Okay. Some of the girls were really like 5 years old girls. They're playing like power game, not inviting her somewhere. And I'm like, Christina, that's absolutely fine. You can invite them or not. It's your, decision. But there are, more kids. You can play with the other kids, and you know how it goes with the kids. But I think it starts already in the kindergarten. Like, hey, I have I have Armani t-shirts. You don't have one, Sorry, guys. Wrong example.
I don't have an Armani.
This is a sporty, very cheap one, right? So, anyway, but you know what I mean, right? Those kind of the things, and then it goes to the university, then through the sport, and then it goes to the business. And the best, if you think about best businesses in the world, I mean, even the high capitalization on the stock exchange, like Apple, Google, on Microsoft, there is no management by fear. They try to inspire people. I was living through two crises, 2000 and 2007. Okay. And it was a tough time. And you can be very tough with the people, but you still can be, it's kind of the tough life. Okay. You can still inspire people. You can be very tough, but you can still inspire people that we will, overcome those challenges, and, we will go. But I think you need to really behave as a leader, right, in those situations, and not to go and say, hey, I will fire you if you will not do your numbers. You are gone. You are fired. It's very easy. Sorry, very easy to say, right? But and you can do it, but then your reputation will go rapidly, down.
And it's exactly this. When we talk about power games, power is, I want individual power, right? And then that need to deliver at all costs can be just survival. It's my way of surviving and keeping my reputation and my worth. It's survival. But notice that both of those ties back to what Jan said about its ego. It's about me. What do I want? What do I need? How do I feel? Where am I comfortable? And now Jan's suggesting, hey, pause for a second, take a breath, be intentional. You can ask for a lot of the team, but notice you're thinking of the team delivering. It's not just about me. Jan didn't say, I need to look good. I'm the president. You all must. He said, hey, come on, step it up. Let's go. Let's do this. We are doing this. Once you're a team, you can get rid of some of that mobbing. That's why the opposite of mobbing is this exclusion. And it starts absolutely. Kids are very young, even less than kindergarten. My kids are still quite young. They figure this out and they know it's power. I won't be your friend is the number one thing that 7-year-olds say right now. I'm not going to be your friend. You're not going to be invited to my birthday party. Exclusion is the most hurtful thing they can think of.
It's the FOPO, fear of other people's opinion. If you are out of the group, you may die. That's from the history, right? Or you will not die. Come on, there are enough kids, there are enough, companies, whatever. I mean, look, I've got, very powerful position, and I did many stupid things, and I said many stupid things, but I never, ever misuse my power, right? You know what I mean? And yes. I think this is important. You can use your, power, but not misuse it, right? So I give you one example. Okay. When I moved to Germany, they gave me good, package, but they never paid for me like the housing. Okay. Then I negotiated with my boss for all other people in my team in Munich to get like housing covered. I never did it for me. I mean, I would be very easy to say, hey, let's do it for me. I remember I was still paying like 2,500 euros every month, for my house, right? For the rent. Because I thought this is it. I need first to take care of the other, of my, people. That's what, by the way, that's what Simon Sinek is saying, that the leaders are eating the last, or whatever. The generals are eating last. This is it. This is it. And you need to, it's fine to talk about it, but you need to behave in that way. And you know what? Once you do it, it's very powerful for you, like for your internal power. You feel good. Hey, I'm that guy who can really lead by example. And this is it. Yeah. There is a one. There are some questions. There is a one funny question from Nika. Jan, is the topic related to your personal experience, which has ended up with completely clean background behind you? Has your commander-in-chief wife indeed invaded your? No, we will do new roof, and they will do a couple of new, windows in my room here. That's why it's clean. It has nothing to do. My wife is rather my mental coach, okay, like challenging me all the time. But in this case, it's because I decided to put a couple of, more window here, to have a little bit more light. Okay.
Such a great question, by the way. We get to know our familiar backgrounds. Yeah.
From Ivana, we will not. You will not see it. But anyway, so maybe Lisa, can you see it, Lisa? The comments
yes.
from Ivana.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'll read it out. So Ivana shared with us, based on her experiences with bullying, she found that if she adopts a composed and confident demeanor, responding without displaying emotions, maintaining this calm attitude, and perhaps even responding with a smile, and while she's asking and insisting on concrete evidence and facts, that she found to be the most effective and most powerful strategy. Because in Ivana's experience, which is precisely what we said as well, we know this from research as well as our careers, individuals who engage in bullying or mobbing frequently lack the actual substantial evidence, and they are relying heavily on these ambiguous statements and vague expressions. And by the way, you might notice that bullies will also do things like try to make a comment to me because I'm a woman or because I'm young. Things that have nothing to do related to the work, but that they think will diminish my power. And again, they're probably not even sexist. They're just finding a way to make me smaller. So not taking it personally. Okay. And where's the evidence for that? What does that mean? You standing in your power makes them realize, I can't overpower that person. I'll just move on to someone else. Lose your power. You stay cool.
It's getting cut.
Cutting?
Again. Yeah.
Okay.
So I may take another question, and if you can try to do something with your, wireless or whatever you use.
I will do that. I will check.
Okay, perfect. Brainstorming, Wojciech, Paleta, brainstorming of toxic praxis. Abnormal generation of tasks by the head, aiming to overload, receiving tasks below the level of assignment, like when you are new, then watch the company cars of heads, task to bring a lunch meal regularly for the head, giving a non-realistic task via written form, where 3 heads towards 1 doer. Yeah, I don't know whether it's your situation, but I would give immediately like feedback on this. And if it not work, I would, leave. Because guys, there's a one thing I can, recommend it to you, because I was like, in my career, it was a global jobs, a lot of, successes, some failures, whatever. But one thing, what I want to recommend you, as much as your, boss can fire you, you can fire your boss.
Yes.
Okay. So you can, it's you. Very often we are like hesitant to do that decision, and then we are like, we don't like it there, and it's not good for your health, by the way, because toxic relationships, whatever is happening, and it's increasing your cortisol level. If it's for a longer time, the stress, chronic stress, it's very bad for your immunity. In fact, what we know from doctors, that 95% of the illnesses are caused today by stress, basically, and started by the stress. Lisa, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm slightly delayed. Yes, and unfortunately, there isn't another option that's easy enough. So I will do my best, but I will speak in short amounts.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I would love to one very clear tip I would love to share with people is whenever you're feeling like you want to react or you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, maybe some of you have heard of the concept of what would Jesus do? WWJD, there used to be bracelets that people would have, and you would always think in the moment, what would Jesus do? When I'm looking for a power play, I ask myself, what would Donald Trump do? He does not give a crap. You cannot bring him down with any scandal. He's never embarrassed. He never admits he's wrong. So when I really need to be in a moment, and now that's not always, I'm not saying you should always walk around like that, but in the moments when you're being mobbed or bullied and you need that strength to not care, what would Donald Trump do? Brush it off. Rule number 1, never show embarrassment. You don't apologize. You don't show that it's getting to you. You move on. You make it work for you. That level of confidence will work. Donald will make America great again.
And I'm not sure that I would, ask me what Donald Trump would do, but with Jesus is probably a good, thing. But it is, you know what? It is. You may use another person, but the person is really like cool under the pressure, which is true with Trump. But you don't want to, because sometimes it's like totally illogical, irrational, that guy.
But this is actually what I mean. I don't want you all to act like him and strike out at people and call people names, but I want you to channel that inner confidence that is so strong in him that he believes he is great no matter what. Literally, no matter what happens, no matter what people say, he has the confidence within. And that's the level of confidence I want you to keep within. Not the name calling and such, but the level of knowledge and confidence. I'm good. It's not me. I can't be taken down.
Yeah. Let's maybe talk now a little bit how, you can help to stop this toxic relationship, because the toxic relationship, unfortunately, are like growing exponentially, because really our emotions are contagious and negative emotions are growing, faster than the positive ones, right? So what can we do, to change? For example, right? You are like new, you like the company, you like your job, but unfortunately in your team, there are like 10 people and 2 of them are really like sources of this toxic relationships, right? What one can do, I think in relationships, like in general in society, there's this Pareto rule, 80-20. So 20% of the people in your team finish work. I should walk. That's what the watches are saying. I walk enough today. Anyway, so 20% of the people in your organization influence 80% of the other people, right? So you just need to figure out who are like people with the mindset similar to yours and who can influence that positive mindset in the team, and try to talk to those people, because if they continue to be toxic, maybe you want to talk to the boss or to the HR. Hey, this is it. What is happening? Right? So because they need to and give. Somebody said you need to give a proof, exactly the evidence that it's happening. Right? That's in general. If you are managers providing some feedback, right? Some tough feedback, like some corrective feedback, you need to provide person with the clear evidence. If you don't have evidence, you may say, hey, I think whatever, it's not. You need to say, hey, you did that. On the other hand, if you are on the receiving end, ask for the evidence. Okay. And usually those people, they don't have evidence, if it's just, some mobbing or, gossiping or whatever. Lisa, I think now we lost you totally. All right, so guys, we may continue, and I think Lisa hopefully will connect again. I think that's a problem with the wireless in Vienna.
I know. I apologize. I'm actually in a business hotel. You would think the Wi-Fi would be able to work. I seem to be cutting out, but I heard most of what you said.
It's interesting because you were in a couple of hotels. I assume those are good hotels, but there's a problem with the wireless. I mean, you know what? The issue
maybe I need a new laptop.
in hotel, that's not necessarily true. In hotels, I don't know. Maybe now, majority of the hotels are free of charge, but they used to charge you like 15 euros or $15 per night for the wireless connection, and it doesn't work. I mean, because you know what, I think they were very advanced 15 years ago, but since that time they didn't upgrade technology like the routers.
Exactly.
And so on.
I think that's what it is. And I could also tell you they had an electrical fire today. We had a lockdown. It was a very bizarre situation here at the hotel. I won't tell you which one, but if anyone's going to Vienna, I'll tell you where not to stay.
Okay.
But what I do want to share is, as we're talking about, okay, so what can I do? Remember, there's power in numbers. This person who's trying to get power over you thinks this is good. If there's enough people around, oh, I might be cutting out. If there's enough people around who are with you on your team, fighting for you, speaking up and saying, hey, that's not okay, that person realizes, oh, it's not me having the power, they have the power. And it's not acceptable here. So you want to have certain, when you talk about your culture, and I do a lot of culture building, we talk about our values, we talk about, how are we going to work together as a team? But what we don't do is talk about the red lines. What is the absolute minimum that we expect that nobody can cross this line? When you set this red line, then what's the consequence? What's the consequence if you set a red line and someone crosses it? And how do we enforce that? How do we speak up as a team to make that happen? Sometimes if you're the person being mobbed, emotionally, it's difficult for you to stand up. It's easier for someone else witnessing the behavior to say, wait, hold on. That doesn't feel right. That's how we work as a team. Speaking up for other people to speak up for you.
It's gone
I think
again.
I'm cutting out, so I'll stop.
All right. Okay. So why toxic relationships are not good for the individuals, we said already, because our brain behaves like a huge chemical factory. If you do the job you like, you have a talent for, it's kind of the meaning of your life, there are great relationships, there's a lot of endorphin, dopamine release, serotonin in case there's a good team, oxytocin if you trust each other. So it's great, and it has all of those chemicals, all of those hormones got an influence on your health. It's improving your immunity. If there's a lot of cortisol, there's a lot of stress, fear, and so on, it has very bad impact on your health because it's, lowering your immunity. But let's talk now, what is the impact of the toxic relationship on the company, on the team, on the institution? Okay,
Yes.
because a lot of people think maybe if they are beating the numbers, it's still good because we have a great quarter, there is a great, stock price, whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, the problem is that, toxic relationship causes disengagement at the workplaces, and that's the real problem. Every 3 years, Gallup is doing, it's called engagement study, and they try to understand how many people are actively engaged. Means that you really like your job so much and environment so much, so even there is a no leader now at the work place, you still work very hard and you like it, you are working over the time, whatever, right? So around 20% are like that. Okay, so we have like 80% people who are like engaged, which means that they need somebody watching them. And then there are people who are like actively disengaged, and those actively disengaged people are like 40% of the people are like getting up in the morning, they are pissed off because they don't like the environment, what they will do, and they go to work to piss off other people. That's the reality according to, Gallup. So there's a huge base for, toxic relationship, because people, they don't like, some people are toxic, for whatever reason, but some people are toxic because they don't like what they do, and they try. And if you are among those 20, and there are like 40% of people saying it's a shit, company is a shit, my job is a shit, and you hear it every day, and as I said, emotions are contagious, that, guess what, it has a very bad impact on you and on the whole organization, right? So uh, and again, you need to have, Lisa rightly said, there needs to be clear rules. What is the red line? And if I'm like behind the red line, what are the consequences? Because if there are no consequences, I mean, come on, everybody will do like toxic relationship if there are no consequences. If there are clear consequences, hey, you know what? If there is a warning, and if you will do it again, 30% your salary off, for 1 year or whatever. It's maybe too much, right? And once you touch, money, I think people will be very much careful what they will do. But it is a huge impact on economic results of the organization, right? As much as like management by fear, short time, maybe that person will have some good results, but once he or she is like leaving or whatever, right? It will drop down because the best people will leave. I tell you what, the problem is majority of the organizations, if there is a crisis, you would say, hey, if they need to lay off people, they should lay off, low performance. But if there's a crisis, usually, the best people are leaving because they are afraid, hey, if it's not handled properly in my organization, right? If it's not handled properly, there are no severance package, no replacement, agency, whatever, right? All of those, pieces. Then you may say, hey, now this is the first line, and then, after 6 months, it's, me. So I rather look for another, job. And that's exactly, even in Microsoft, which I think it's a great organization, it happened. A couple of people, especially like developers, left because of that, because they felt like, hey, maybe it will be me, I will move on. So you need to be very careful because you are sending signals all the time. Whatever you do, you are always sending signals.
Yes. And one thing I want to share is for anybody who wants to learn more about this topic, there's an amazing book called The No Assholes Rule. There's also an HBR article and I'm sure videos. Bob Sutton wrote this book. He's out of Stanford, The No Assholes Rule. And he goes through all of this in detail, why we know it's bad for the business, why we can't believe this myth of brilliant jerks like Steve Jobs. You go, oh, I know he's a jerk, but he's worth keeping around because he's so brilliant or he's so talented or he delivers these results. But actually, the research shows the opposite. It is not good. So again, the team needs to step up, come together and say no. One of the hardest things that happens, we are humans, when something toxic happens, we look around. How are other people responding?
Exactly.
We're not sure what to do. I go all the way back to the 1970s in New York. There was a woman named Kitty Genovese. She was in the middle of an apartment complex, so many windows around. She was stabbed. She was screaming. People came to their windows. They looked. Nobody did anything. The stabber left, came back, stabbed her again, screaming. 38 eyewitnesses, once the cops came and talked to everybody, 38 people watched and did nothing. And why did they do nothing? Because they saw other people were watching and they thought, but they're not doing anything. Am I supposed to? Someone else is responsible. It's not my thing. Like, well, so the easiest thing that you can do is say, I'll take responsibility. If I see something, I'll say something. Create the culture that you want to work in and help other people. Ask others to stand up. Do not be that bystander who goes, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You know what to do. Even if what often happens, someone says something so toxic, I hear things, you'd be shocked at the things I hear people asking, hey, do you often go to this BDSM club that's in the area that you live? At work, what are you talking about? This is not appropriate, right? They're so shocked that everybody just goes like, did that just happen? What am I like processing? You're just processing. You're so shocked. And the thing you need to immediately know is not the perfect thing to say, but have a sentence where you can say something like, you know, what you just said to me isn't really okay for our work. And just have a sentence memorized so that your brain doesn't have to think through and sort and process. You have something to grab immediately. Remember, the resources when they're back in the fear state are not going to allow your rational, brilliant part of your brain to work. So have something to grab immediately. Already know how to step in. Hey, when I see something like that, you know, I don't really feel like that's something we want to have for the team. Just one sentence that you have handy. Yes, Ivana just put a link if you're on LinkedIn, the no assholes rule and how to be a civilized workplace and survive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a great book. Yeah.
It's a really great book. It's very practical and it's a great conversation starter if you want to go to your team lead or your team lead's team lead, if your manager is the problem of who's toxic, and say, look, the culture is important for success. You don't have to go and say my feelings are hurt. That might not work in the business context. It might. You have to know your team, but you have to say, look, I have the evidence. I know what our team needs to be successful. It's things like psychological safety. It's like engagement. And we don't have that right now. And it's because of these behaviors. And we need these behaviors to stop. Let's implement a no assholes rule. You can bring this up. Feel empowered. Don't think you only battle with one person. Go use the systems around you, right? Use the company culture. Use the people around you.
Yeah. Wojciech, that is a very strong relationship with the, engagement of the people and satisfaction and loyalty. What we know from Gallup, that those organizations which hire, which have a engagement 30-40%, they are immediately seeing 30-35% improvement in what we call it in Microsoft CPE, customer and partner experience, which is basically satisfaction survey, right? Because I tell you what is behind it. Okay. Imagine if you do the job you like and you are like using your natural talents, your genes you were born with, and so on. Okay, usually if you do what you like, you are usually successful, but you are also happy because you like what you do. And if you are successful and happy, a lot of hormones like endorphin, dopamine are released, and then you are healthier also, right? But and all of that, you basically mirror out of the organization with your customers, with your partners, and so on, right? And that's the same with loyalty. I remember we were measuring. I tell you what we were doing. It was called first OHI and then WHI. You know, you would kill me, but I don't know what else. I think World Health Index and Organizational Health Index. Okay, so it was like 110 questions. How you are happy with your company, how you are happy with your leaders, and so on. And we were also asking, are you planning to leave in 1 to 3 years or 3 to 5 years? And we would have like 2 to 3%, people who would say yes, and those were usually low performers. High performers, very, very rarely they would, answer that. There is a good attrition rate, which means like you are cutting, people who are not performing very well. Bad attrition rate means very good people leaving your organization. Again, it was in Microsoft below good, attrition was on the proper level, but bad attrition, was below 2%. Then, some people were still leaving, even though it was a good organization, as always. But this is it. But my belief is, if you are able to basically give people the jobs, they reflect their talents and they are really, on their own kind of, hey, we like what we do. Toxic relationships are going down, obviously, and performance in general goes up, and satisfaction, loyalty, which are kind of the long term, because performance, you may say, yeah, this is just for 1 year, but if our customers are recommending, to our products or services to the other people, this is what we need, right? So there is a clear connection to that. Yeah.
And I love this next comment. Micha is going to buy the book for the whole office team. I can't tell you how many people have bought it and said, I'm going to buy it and put it on my boss's desk. I'm going to buy it and put it on this asshole's desk. How many people buy it if you have like a white elephant Christmas party at work or something? It's a very funny gift. It's a very funny term. He wanted it to be a strong term. He's not a guy who likes to curse a lot. He's not a Gary Vee or anything. He's an academic at Stanford. But he felt it had to be that strong for people to understand the impact that these people have. They're not quite just a jerk. They're really much more.
Exactly.
And here's something that's really important, also worth sharing. For many people who, again, have learned the right way to handle relationships, you learn, and I teach this, I fully endorse it, understand where the other person is coming from, have a conversation with them, try to make a breakthrough, try to progress the relationship that you have with this person. But I also need you at the same time to realize if the person is not open to repairing the relationship or open to talking, then please don't stay in a toxic relationship saying, yeah, but maybe they'll change, or maybe I need to try a little bit harder, or right. Don't take it on yourself only to be abused over and over. You can try, and if they're not open, cool. Don't waste the time and energy and the worrying and should I try this way and this way and this way and this way and this. If you can't resolve it directly with them, like we said, there are many other ways you can go around. You can stand your ground. You can have other people speak up. You can change culture. You can report to HR. There are so many tools, but I see so many people get stuck thinking, but that's the right thing to do. I'm supposed to build this relationship. It's like falling in love. If the other person doesn't love you back, what can you do? The other person doesn't want to be nice. They want to hurt you. Don't keep putting yourself out there to be stabbed. I see a lot of people do this. So please don't.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, toxic relationships at the work, it has to do with the leadership, because if there is a strong leadership and people really believe on what he or she believes, leader, right? There's a clear, visionary leadership and inspiration. A toxic relationship is relatively low. Toxic relationship and politics. Look, I'm not saying that Microsoft was not like on the top a little bit, political, but while, our competitors were like people on my level would spend like 60 to 70% on the politics, I would probably spend like 10% of the on the politics. Like I'm not saying that I was not influencing people to get, resources for my region. Absolutely. Right?
Yeah,
You do it.
that's
You do a
done.
little bit, like 10%, but not that, not that much. Because if there are like clear rules, hey, those are results I achieved. This is what I need for the next year, stuff like that. This is it. And I really believe that if there's a strong leader running that organization, there's a less politics. That's number one. And number two, there's a less toxic environment, because politics is about like gossiping and stuff like that. You don't need, I mean, uh, unfortunately, the real politics today, it's really bad. We don't know everything. Right? We know a little bit. I was watching yesterday. There's a nice movie about Schwarzenegger. Right? Schwarzenegger as athlete, then as a actor, and as a politician. And in fact, he was a real. I'm not saying that he did everything right, right? But he at least he behave like a servant to the people. He was like asking stuff, and he really built some stuff they are using in California till today. Obviously, he ended up because there was a crisis, and so on. But it was some visionary, leadership. I mean, and it was like, ordinary guy from Austria, from, mountains, right? But, I think he got like, kind of the brain, and he inspired people and so on. And that's why I really believe that good leadership has to do with like teamwork, collaboration together. Cross group collaboration or not collaboration is another source of the toxic relationship. You can have a great relationship in your group, but you may say, but your group, it's like you guys are worse than the biggest competitor in the market. Makes no
Yes.
sense. We are one company. There's enough competition out of the company. Why should we compete in the company? But very often you have those cross groups, fights. Makes no sense. But in my view, if there is a strong leader, you don't have those fights in the boxes, in the groups, among the groups.
Yes. And I want to make this distinction because we're both hinting at this, and it's really important to understand. Ideally, you're using principled leadership. You're using your influencing skills, your charisma, your engagement of others, your caring, your want to lead others, right? And then the question is, but how do I deal with a bully or someone who's mobbing? And it's honestly, most of the time, a different skill set. I'm not saying you lose yourself. You can still be charming and nice, but you need to be a little bit more firm. And in this case with mobbing, you need to know, how am I dealing with this asshole? Now, there's another book that I can recommend for how to develop the toolkit for building that powerful resource. Also out of Stanford, he's an expert. He's got many books, many articles, called Jeffrey Pfeffer. His latest book is called The 7 Rules of Power. So most of the time, Jan and I talk about positive leadership, how to be a great leader. And now we're saying, look, there are some times when you need to have a little bit of this other kind of strength. Again, not aggressive, not attacking. We never condone that. But we want you to know how to stand your ground. So the 7 Rules of Power by Jeffrey Pfeffer, or read some of his, or watch some of his videos. He has a podcast. He will help you to figure out what are the rules of power where I can stay centered.
There's a one from Wojciech. My experience is that people in comfort zone create the toxic environment also, where the engagers feeling afterwards a bit frustrated. It can be absolutely that, people who are especially like that, long time saying, hey, we know enough about it. It's not gonna to work and so on, because look, if you are a leader, you try to move your people all the time out of the comfort zone. You try, at least I was like testing always, what is possible. Okay. And whoever wanted to go with me out of the comfort zone, I said, well, I'll support you. If there was somebody too long in the comfort zone, I recommend him to go and, change the company, because maybe in the other company that performance would move him out of their comfort zone, but not necessarily in Microsoft. This is it. But you are right, because then I tell you what, if you keep for a long time underperformers, which are in addition toxic, people, you are demotivating the people around you who are like out of the comfort zone, right? Who are like following you. So you should take decision. That's for sure. Lisa, hi again. We lost her for a while. Great book, power book too. Yeah, it is a great book. Now we lost her at all. I think they have a power shortage maybe in Vienna. Yeah, I have a couple of additional points on the what to basically be complementary to. You back?
I'm back.
Okay, because there was a black screen.
Maybe that was a better version of me. I don't know.
Okay. What you can do, you can basically create really boundaries, and and make clear, hey, this is gonna to work with me, this is not gonna to work with me, right? You can also use, even though it's kind of the additional support, use like sport, hobbies, mindfulness, yoga, whatever, to cool down if the time is tough. The other thing is, the problem with people is that it's, as Lisa in her beginning, which I thought was great, said, it's all about power game, and it's all about emotions. And if you think about it, emotions are so much important, but we are not taught emotional intelligence at all. How we should handle our emotions, how we should connect other people, and so on. What I figured out, guys, works with some people, not with everybody. If that person goes like after you all the time, you may stop, and once you and that person are kind of the cool, say, hey, this is the way I feel. If you behave like that, this is the way I feel, not what I think, I feel. And I would say 60-70% of the cases, that person would say, hey, maybe it's maybe you are right, we can change our relationship a little bit, and so on, right? So yeah, this is in a nutshell. Obviously, you can also ask for support, somebody more senior, right? And I can tell you, my experience would be, if I need to go, I would go to the boss and say, hey, this is absolutely unacceptable. And if that boss was not acting in 1 week, I would consider to move on and leave the company. A lot of people think, hey, I need to stay here because I need to pay my loan, whatever, right? You can, right? If you have a good skills, you can work for you. Now today, I can tell you, there is a shortage of the good people everywhere. Take whatever industry. I'm the chairman in a recruitment academy at the Wenceslas Square, and they do like recruitment academy and good call. They do basically headhunting, kind of they are not doing top executives, but they are doing like middle, management and lower positions. But it's like 160 people, and they have so many assignments now, because there are not enough people. They are like in 3-4 different countries, so definitely, yeah.
And that's exactly right. Take the power back. We said, if you can solve it within, if you have other people you can go to, and if not, remember, you are not in golden handcuffs. You can leave. You can look for another job, start networking. And by the way, not that I'm encouraging any of you to quit your jobs, But I'm telling you now, maybe this is a whole nother session where we talk about building your personal brand, because you need to be out there well before you need a new job or you're looking for an opportunity. You need to have planted those seeds and have people know who you are and have people approaching you with opportunities. That's the best way for you to feel your freedom, where if someone's mobbing you or it's a toxic environment, that you feel, I can walk. I have that power.
And you know what? People in general, they suffer because they are attached to the past and they cannot make a change in their life. This is it. Okay. If you are really like, it's like narcotics almost. Like if you are attached, to that company, right? And I can't survive without them, whatever. You can. Come on. I left Microsoft after 22 years. I was in a great, and we still have a great relationship with Microsoft, right? It was for the other, reason, but I said, like, there is a time, for the change. I was one of the best paid managers in Europe, and I don't like, first decision I made to join was a great decision. And the second decision to leave after 22 years was probably even better decision, right? At that time, right? So this is it. Don't be afraid. Look, I made my decision. You can obviously say, but you were like economically, secure. Whatever. It's true. It's true. On the other hand, I am not touching the money from Microsoft. I'm on my own, and I switch totally. I mean, coaching, mental coaching, athletes. I do. This is very different from what I did. But you can. That's another thing. Whatever you do today, you can use a lot of things from your current job to your new job, because because you guys are knowledge workers, or everybody who is here is somehow knowledge worker, right? There's maybe there's somebody who is like working manually. That's fine. I love all jobs, but you can use a lot of things from one job to the other because it's about people. I mean, I was recently there was a sister and brother, two from people from Czech, 22 and 20 years old, okay? And they asked me because their father was a coach, tennis coach, and they came to me and they said, Jan, what we should do and so on. And I said, where are you making your money? Because they are on their own, living in Switzerland. And they said, well, we are working in the restaurant, we are making good money, right? I said, that's a perfect job. And they said, why? Because we are just serving. I said, that's a perfect job to understand who are the people. You will have it, do it for another 2-3 years, and then you can start your company, whatever. But it's a great job to be waiter or waitress. It's a great job. Why I'm saying that whatever you do today, majority of your knowledge and skills you can use in some other place.
That's exactly right. So everyone, unfortunately, we're already at time. We always love chatting with you. We love the interactions. We're happy to hear of any topics you want to hear for future LinkedIn live sessions, or on YouTube and Facebook as well. So let us know what's of interest to you. And a special thanks, Wojciech is here taking a 3-month sabbatical, and this is day 2.
That's a good thing. I did the same thing, like 2006, I think. I did like 2 months, and they were offering like, hey, Jan, you can get, it was 3 months. I put it together with my, vacation. So it was 3 months, but they said you can get, salary for 2 months, which was, reasonable money, or 2 months vacation. I said, no, I want to get, vacation. Absolutely.
We all need the rest and recovery. So Thank you all very much. Guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks at the normal time of 8 p.m. CET. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you. Bye.